Welcome back to Recap Kun. Today, I will be continuing my recap on Monsters But Wild. In the previous episode, Don was mysteriously sucked into his VR game and transformed into the weakest monster. He struggles at first, but using his knowledge of the game, he manages to get to level 20. He lets himself get captured by a girl named Bubbles so that he can enter the city as her pet. He undergoes his job promotion, allowing him to gain a human form, but it seems he is being watched. Bubbles registers for the Godhead entrance exam, where the first place will be given a hint for the game's main quest. While she walks with Dawn, they witness a robbery, and Dawn takes down the thief. The lady thanks them for being the first ones to help her, and Dawn gets excited as she prepares to give them a reward. But it turns out to just be her business card, and she introduces herself as Yukio. Dawn is disappointed because he thought they were about to receive something special, but she gives Bubbles a book, telling her that it's a guide for the Godhead entrance exam. Dawn checks it out and says the book is a good reward for the hidden quest because it will help them ace the exam. Bubbles asks him why she didn't receive any reward for helping him with his job promotion since he called himself a hidden quest. But Dawn claims that his eternal protection is the reward, which makes her happy, and she asks if he will be with her forever. This makes him think about going back to his own world. He tries to tell Bubbles the truth, but the system censors his words as he tells his story, making Bubbles think he is cursing her, so she hits him and walks away. Dawn tells her that he was trying to share his origin story, but she claims she already knows what he was saying despite the censorship, thinking he is a pervert. Dawn tells her to stop imagining things, and he realizes that he can't tell anyone his story because his words will be censored, and he blames the game developers for his situation. So he is left with no choice but to complete the main quest to return to his own world. Bubbles wants to cancel the pet contract, but Dawn clings to her, begging her not to abandon him, as he claims that he was just using the language of skeleton warriors to compliment her. She ends up believing him, but tells him not to lie to her, and he tells her he will stay with her as long as she plays Azure Sky. At that moment, a bird goes to her, giving her a message which states that she is ranked number 8 in the Godhead entrance exam, and that her exam will be on the following week. This makes her happy, but she thinks about the 7 people who outrank them, thinking it will be challenging to get first place. They go to the skeleton warriors, who are now building a camp with the goblins. Bubbles is afraid of them, so she tries to run away, but Dawn tells her not to be afraid, because he is their boss. The monsters surround them, and they try to attack Dawn, unable to recognize him, so he turns back into a skeleton warrior, calling out to Bonnie and Fatty. Fatty is happy to see him, updating him about the situation. The skeletons have subjugated the goblins, making them build a tunnel, and Fatty reveals that they even have a throne for Dawn. Dawn sits on his throne, while Fatty gives Bubbles some tea. She asks Fatty if he is really a monster, because they have accomplished things that are very impressive. But Fatty says that it's all thanks to the boss, and Dawn reveals that Bubbles is his master. He tells Fatty and Bonnie to help her train, saying that she needs to reach level 39 in a week. He informs them that Bubbles can have another pet after she gets her job promotion, so he tells them to help her find a pet when that happens. Dawn leaves the camp to train, practicing with his new skills. He gathers the materials needed for Bubbles' promotion, thinking about how he needs to ace the exam so that he can return to his world. We learn it's been 5 days since he was trapped in the world, and he wonders if his parents and co-workers are worried about him. But we see his parents enjoying their time without him, and at his company, his manager is told that he was transferred to another department, so there is no need to worry about him. After a few days, Fatty shows Bubbles some slimes, telling her that they can help her catch one. Bubbles picks one, finding it cute, and they help her by dealing damage to it. She is about to catch it, when suddenly, Jake kills it. Bubbles is upset, asking Jake why he killed her slime, and Jake remembers her, asking her about Dawn as he trembles in fear. Bubbles tells him that he isn't there, and Jake is relieved to hear this, telling Bubbles that she has been abandoned. But Fatty summons the other skeletons, which Jake looks down on, thinking that they are all low level. However, he is surprised to see that the lowest level skeleton is level 20. Fatty throws Bonnie toward Jake, pushing him back, while Fatty kicks him in the balls, making him fall to his knees as they surround him. The skeletons beat him up, and they tie him up like a pig, planning to show him to Dawn. Bubbles wonders why Dawn isn't replying to her messages, and returns to the camp where she logs off. Upon returning to the real world, her friend asks her about the game. Bubbles says that it's fun, and she tells her about Dawn, calling him a very interesting monster. But she is frustrated because Dawn has been ignoring her for days. Her friend asks her if they're in a relationship, but Bubbles denies it as she logs back in. While in the camp, Bubbles wishes that Dawn existed in the real world. Dawn hears this, asking her about it, but she tells him that it's none of his business. Dawn notices that she is upset, so he tells her that he is there for her. Bubbles asks him why he never replied to her messages, and Dawn checks his inbox, realizing that he has tons of unread messages from her. So he apologizes to his master, telling her that he was busy farming job promotion materials for her, and he even has some special food. Bubbles is convinced seeing the food, and ends up accepting his apology. Later, Dawn tells her that it's time for her job promotion, and she checks her inventory, confirming that she has all the required materials. At that moment, his followers show him Jake, but Dawn can't seem to recognize him given his current state. But Fatty reminds him about the knight that once killed them, so Dawn realizes who he is. Dawn thinks that Jake could be out for revenge, and he could threaten Fatty if they let him go, so he tells them to hold on to him. They go to the location of the entrance exam, where we learn that Bubbles is already at level 39, excited to surprise everyone with her progress. As Dawn reads the guide, he is approached by Yukio, who is also there for the entrance exam. They team up with her, as she reveals she is ranked number 9. Dawn informs her that their rank is higher, but she wraps her arm around him, calling him cocky. They gather before the Academy's dean, who is revealed to be one of the strongest people in Azure Sky, but he suddenly trips and falls over. His assistant quickly helps him into a chair, and the man announces that the exam will begin. He opens up some portals, which the candidates start to enter. The announcer, Green Afro, reveals that the first round will take place on an island, where the examinees must obtain 3 Phantom Martin pelts, complete 3 contraptions, and solve 3 magic puzzles. Completing 2 of that tasks will allow candidates to advance to the next round, but only the first 50 will be accepted. They can attack each other during the exam, or form teams as they see fit. So everyone ends up forming teams, as the 2 candidates from the top guilds arrive, immediately forming a rivalry. Bubbles finds them cute, wanting to keep them as pets, but Dawn warns her not to insult them, since they are the first seeds of the top guilds, and they are the top 2 candidates in their rankings. Everyone heads off to complete the tasks, and Yukio suggests hunting some Phantom Martins first, but Dawn knows it won't be easy, because everyone is already headed to the forest. He thinks it will be easier to complete the other tasks first, saying that it would be best to split up. Yukio and Bubbles will complete the contraptions, while Dawn will hunt the Phantom Martins on his own, saying it will be a piece of cake. Meanwhile, the cat ninja, Mushroom, receives orders to monitor Dawn. Dawn uses the manual to find the closest spawning point in the forest, and he sees a Phantom Martin, trying to kill it, but it's too fast, and it even has the ability to become immune to physical attacks. But Dawn uses his magic to kill it, grabbing Green Afro's attention, and he is surprised to learn that Dawn is just a pet, but he's already at level 61. He uses the guide to find the monster's spawn points, allowing him to easily complete the quest. Meanwhile, we see Mushroom watching him, and he reports to his master Yiwu, who is also easily taking out the monsters. Mushroom wonders if he should try to stop Dawn, but Yiwu finds him interesting. Dawn suddenly surprises Mushroom, but just wants to sell him some pelts. He doesn't want to buy any, but Dawn pesters him, offering a discount, and this makes him angry. He tries to attack Dawn, who uses his speed to dodge the attacks. Mushroom tries to run away, but Dawn catches up to him, trying to convince him to buy the pelts. He does his best to escape, but Dawn persistently chases after him. Mushroom becomes exhausted, falling to the ground, and Dawn asks him if he is going to buy some, but he reveals he doesn't have a lot of money. Dawn puts makeup on him and plays around with him, before giving him some pelts, and tells him to be more careful when spying on someone. Mushroom reports to Yiwu, telling him about what happened, and Yiwu orders him to tell everyone that Dawn is selling pelts. Meanwhile, Yukio and Bubbles struggle with the contraptions, since they appear to be missing a certain component. Yukio tries to assemble it, while Bubbles uses the guide to help her find the right part, but none of the parts seem to fit the description. Yukio thinks about the final piece, asking Bubbles to help her find it. But at that moment, Bubbles receives loads of payment notifications, thinking that it could be because of Dawn, so she contacts him, asking him to explain what's happening. Dawn tells her that the other players paid him to help obtain some pelts, but he actually hoarded them all, offering them to the players at an outrageous price, while they fight over the few monsters left in the forest. Green Afro condemns his action, calling him a swindler, but he admits it doesn't go against the rules of the exam. Dawn happily takes the money from other players, who are depressed because they barely have enough to buy the pelts. As he pesters other players to buy his goods, the other skeletons are watching him, wanting to learn how to earn money, and thinking that their boss is so smart. Dawn assesses the situation, thinking that they are still in the lead even though he gave some pelts to the other players. So he carries on with his business, seeing some more players who are also looking for the monsters. Dawn offers them his pelts, but he sees someone who is doing the same thing, calling him out for copying his strategy, and the two prepare to fight. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.